Hi everyone, I'm back from the California Cup. I went last weekend and I went 5-1. I got this trophy, which was really cool, and I think I also got COVID, which was worth it. It's fine. I'm doing okay right now, but I feel like everyone I know is like starting to get sick who was there, and my throat feels weird. So if you went to California Cup, you might want to test yourself. Hope you're doing okay. It was a great event though. I don't give a shit that I got COVID. It was awesome. I'm so happy I went. If I die in like 2 weeks, that's gonna age really comically. Let's go over my list. Okay, so we got a lot of characters in here. Orks have changed a bit over 10. This has changed a lot since my SoCal list too, if you watch that video. This is largely due to the terrain that they had. It is player placed terrain, but I really like this format. I think it's like my new favorite way to do player placed. There's always 2 fixed ruins in the middle of the board around the center objective. So I'll open their player packet to show you what that's like if people are curious, because I think it's like very important for understanding the context of the army. Okay, so we got, here's the examples of the player place terrain. For anyone who's unfamiliar, this is like a relatively popular, actually I would say very popular format for 40K. It's what LVO uses, it's what every Frontline Gaming event uses. Frontline Gaming is probably the largest tournament organizer. Still certainly the largest independent one who throws like large tournaments. How player place works is you alternate placing pieces of your opponent to define the battlefield. There's a lot of rules for that. If people want a player place video, I'll make that, but I know most people are not here for that, so I won't go over it in that much detail today. I think like 4 out of my 6 games are run the Volcanic Tomb set. This one here. It's like these ruins are always in the center. This looks like a door. It is not. This is treated as closed off. They're windowless. So, I mean, that like mostly worked against me because you can still be here and not get shot. But this being windowless means Squig Hogs cannot go through it. So, people were able to move block me with that a lot. It mostly worked out eventually for me. But yeah, it was much harder having this be closed off. So yeah, these go in the center for search and destroy, or like that. Hammer and Anvil, Dawn of War, and then for Crucible of Battle, Sweeping Engagement, they're like this. They go that way. Yeah, it's pretty hard to see through the middle, and it basically forces what like a lot of armies want to do anyways. Like this is like not an uncommon first drop, right? Usually not quite like this, but something like that for center objective and player placed. Yeah, I really like it. It helps melee armies out a little bit, and it just makes like less decision making and standardizes the terrain a bit. First drop for player placed historically has always had a massive advantage. So one like alternative proposal that's been made for that is by having the attacker place 2 drops for terrain. And I think that's like too strong, personally. I think like it kind of just creates the same issue more or less, but this like solves it for me. I really like this format. And knowing this, I mean, this is a big part if you're going to like a major. I always know like the terrain that's going to be there and like try and get a sense of the armies. That's like harder, right? Like you can't predict your matchup, but you can predict most of the time the terrain. Like most big tournaments have like relatively standard terrain. You'll get boards that are like better for you than others, right? But like I feel like basically every event at this point has like pretty consistent terrain. And like, yeah, if I went to a GW event, I probably wouldn't run this list. I would run something slightly different. If I went to a true player placed event, I would probably have like flash kits. That's what I did at SoCal Open. But for this one, knowing the middle is blocked out, I took out the flash kits from my list, which have been like a staple for a while now. Yeah, just because I feel like with this center ruin, it's better to have more like melee pressure for orcs. I want to have more like melee trading pieces, then I know I can hide a lot more of my army, and a lot of other people's armies can be hidden from me. So with that established, I'll go over the list now. I'm gonna put this trophy away before. Oh, this is also misleading. Spoiler: I went 5-1. I didn't win like the most games. That goes to Anthony Vanilla and his War Leaders, which did insane. But yeah, I had like the highest combination of like doing okay at the game and battle points, which is why I get this trophy. I've got Ghazghkull. He goes with the 2 Mega Knobs. I really like him on this board again because he's infantry now. He can go straight through that ruin, and he can hang out in that ruin. And he's like actually pretty easy to hide in it. This is like not something I expected. He was like pretty easy to hide a lot of the time in that ruin and won me multiple games as a result. He was a champ. I really like him. I think Orks will get hit points wise at some point. I don't feel like Ghazghkull necessarily will though. I know a lot of people are starting to run him, but for a while he felt like a sleeper pick to me. I feel like it's kind of a new thing that people are taking Ghazghkull, so we'll see. But I feel like he's like a relatively safe horse to bet on. Makari's lethal hits are insane, and yeah, he's got AP3, which Orks really don't have access to. He's like durable too, so he's able to like absorb a lot of shooting late game when my opponent doesn't have many resources left. If all the squig cogs are dead, I'll usually pop Artist Nails for the -1 to wound on him. Yeah, he's great. Also, yeah, 2-up save, 4-up invuln in cover goes a long way, especially if you have a temporary 2-up invuln from Makari, or at least on paper. I think I rolled a 1 for his save the first 3 games I played. Yeah, I've got Mazrog. He's a staple for me. I think I want to try playing without him for a little bit, even though I think he's great, but like Mazrog's great not because of his damage output. He's great because he never dies, and I think people are starting to ignore and move block him in a way that makes it like a little bit harder for me to play with him the way I want to. This weekend he was like incredible, but I think like Orks have a lot of options. I want to explore like more infantry. If you haven't played with Mazrog though, you're new to Orks, like he's very, very good. I think he's like one of the most durable characters in the game. Transcendent Catan being higher, and I'm sure there's some others, but yeah, he's very, very durable. Nobbin Smash the Squig, another Nobbin Smash the Squig with Edwap as Kill Choppa. They both go with the 6-man Squig Hog Boys. 2 war bosses. This is a new thing too. I really like it. I'm gonna stick with this from now on. So they're in 2 5-man Nob squads. One of the trucks is for the Beast Naga Boys up here, and then the other one is for both Nob squads because they have a transport capacity of 12. What splitting up the war boss and Nobs allow you to do is go after like different targets. I feel like the damage output of 5 Nobs and a war boss during the Wog turn is like usually so much that like 10 is overkill. 10 is like an easier target for your opponent. 10 is harder to hide. 10 is easier to move block. 10 causes issues or like sometimes if they're in like a huge line and I make a charge, like the back is like has to pile in towards something they like don't want because you have to pile in towards the closest enemy model, right? And if there's like a huge like combat mess going on, sometimes the 10 can like really work against me. I like having like small footprints that I can do like very precise and clean things with. And yeah, the 2 5-mans and a war boss each like helps solve that problem for me. Yeah, the Mega Knobs are with Gaz, as I said earlier. 30 grots, mostly because I think 20 is enough. I think 30 was a bit excessive. Like, sure, there's some games where you'll want 30, but like, as a whole, I think 20 is enough. The reason why I took 30 is just because like 40 points was a convenient amount that I had lying around. Like, more grots is great, but I think like, I'm not going to always try to make room for 30. I think like for me personally, 20 is usually good. There's not that much indirect I'm like worried about right now. Most of the matchups that do have a lot of indirect are pretty good for me, like Chaos Knights and Eldar. So yeah, I think like 20 is fine. Another 3-man Squig Hog unit. They kill stuff sometimes. Like they can absolutely kill screens. They can trade into like most stuff too, like relatively well. Sometimes they can spike and kill like an Arminger or a War Dog. I don't rely on that though. And having the extra bomb squig is nice, but they're like still durable, right? They're still Squig Hogs, even if without the -1 to wound, they're like pretty hard to kill. And they just kind of hang out and play the mission. And can be like, if like I really need something to die, then I can throw 3 more Squig Hogs in there and like guarantee it most of the time. But yeah, they're a good like utility piece. I like their flexibility. And 2 units of forms, 5 Storm Boys, who mostly just like move block and do mission stuff. The only matchup I really charge them like guaranteed is Eldar, and everything else that's kind of like flex, but predominantly mission play. Yeah, this list hits really hard. It still has a lot of small units. The name of the list is Mork went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. That's like the name in the app and on BCP because it's just like all violence. It kills a lot harder than lists I've been running. I've been playing the mission a lot and like building lists that skew into tactical, and this does not. This just like tries to run you over, and with the terrain at this event, I felt like I'd be able to hide it reasonably well, and it proved mostly true. So yeah, I'll go over my games now. I gotta do like a live seminar where I go over the list. It's probably like the best way to do it, so people can actually ask stuff. Okay, so yeah, here's all 6 of my games. The first one is into Grant, who's a local player, is really good. I think he was definitely top 8. I forget where he finished. I think he was like 4th or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, he's a good player, and Death Guard is a hard matchup for me. So I was happy I was able to keep it like relatively close. Round 2 was into Orks. Keaton's another local player. Then round 3 was into Jason from XPZ playing Knights. I gotta actually label these better so for the sake of videos. Round 4 was into another Orks mare. I won best Ork too, and I got this flag. It was nice that like I got to actually play some Orks along the way to make this feel like a little more more deserved. I feel like sometimes, especially for like huge events, whoever gets like best in faction is like sometimes who just got best matchups. But yeah, at least they got to play the mirror a couple times and won both of them. So it makes it feel like a little bit more earned of a title. Yes, that was round 4 Orks. Round 5 was Tyler Bortel. This was the most intense game. He's so good. He has a podcast called Best in Faction with Lucas Trawler and I think one other guy who I don't know. But yeah, he's like a WTC boy, Team USA, plays Tyranids. I mean, based on the podcast name, I'd assume like placed Best in Faction for Tyranids previously. I would be more surprised if he hasn't than if he has. Yeah, that was an intense game. I'll go over it later. He's a great opponent. He played like very like fair, and it's nice to see someone who's like insanely good, but also like wins just like purely on their merit of being insane at 40k and doesn't feel like aggressive or like gotchy or like any notions of like unfair play at all. He's awesome. That was a really, really tight game that I'm like very happy I got to win. And yeah, I definitely had some like luck swings go in my favor. We both made like some small mistakes. I'll go over it later. And then round 6 is against Mark, who I play in like round 6 of like probably every like 4th major that I go to. And I'm always playing Orks and he's always playing Tau. I don't know. Yeah, we just always have the same like win path. And that was, as you can see by the score, another very, very, very close game against another great opponent. So yeah, I'll go over them like one by one in detail, but that's like the broad strokes. Yeah, so against Grant, let me check the mission. The deployment was Crucible of Battle. The mission was Secret Intel, which I did not. Neither of us took advantage of because we both took Fixed. And the primary was Take and Hold, which is just Hold 1, Hold 2, Hold 3. I took Bring It Down and Deploy Teleport Homers. He had like a pretty interesting Death Guard list. I can find it in case people are curious real quick. Double Malignant Plaguecaster, Chaos Lord, Icon Bearer, 10 Plague Marines. That's like all pretty standard. 3 Rhinos. But he had a ton of mechanized stuff. It was a double fitted blow drone, triple Plague Burst Crawler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of Nurglings, and 3 Brigands. So I was like, well, he gives up like a reasonable amount to Bring It Down. And the main reason I took it is just because like Grant someone have like played enough times that it felt like fun to experiment, and I just wanted to try Fix to see how it goes. Some very good players like argue otherwise, but I'm like a huge defender that Orcs should almost always take tactical unless it's a game that like really, really makes sense to them. I mean, it's not, and they're great at Fixed. It's not because like they're bad at Fixed. It's just because they really, really need the CP. And Grot's rolling a 4-up, no matter how many objectives you're on, like it's never guaranteed that you're getting that bonus command point. And being able to discard one at the end of a turn is like huge. It's like saved me a lot of games. We need Fight on Death. We need -1 to wound always. Unbridled Carnage is obviously great. You want to interrupt, and then you want that pocket change for a Korean along the way if you've done good budgeting for the month and want to buy yourself a little Korean treat at the ice cream parlor. Just nice to be able to have options and flexibility for CP. I feel like Orcs and melee armies in general are best when they're like kind of tricksy and can manipulate things in like surprising orders, and Orcs are able to do that the most with a lot of CP. This game I was definitely lacking CP. I could feel it, and Fixed was like fine. Like Teleport Homers, I got like a reasonable score. I don't remember what. That's like the easiest one for us to do. Like we're almost always going to control the mid board unless it's against like World Leaders or something. And I knew I wasn't going to win this game unless I like killed his vehicles, so that's what we took Bring It Down. And again, like I feel like I was able to score secondaries, but like I was really lacking command points. I only really had the 1 unit of Grots on this home objective. It was hard for me to get them to stick around here and here. He just prioritized them as most good opponents should. And I wasn't able to like hide them enough, or he was able to like out OC me and flip it even if the Grots were alive. So I only had 1 chance to roll for CP every turn, and I happened to fail it, I think, like almost every turn. I probably got it like once, but this game was also a little weird. The score is like not indicative of how it ended up. I think if we kept going, he would have had a bigger points lead than this, but we ended the game early. We put the wrong amount of time in our clock at the beginning, and then like just decided to call it at the end of the round. We're both like happy enough with the score, but it was fine. But yeah, I think like early on, he actually thought it was like over at some point on like turn 2. Don't think I have any pictures, unfortunately, of this game. Orcs AP1 into a like 2-up 3-up save army is like this was like a good example of like showcasing Orcs like swinginess of just like mass AP1, and like Gazgul and stuff helped, but Death Guard are like a very hard matchup. For anyone who doesn't know why Death Guard are a hard matchup for Orcs, I would argue it's like probably their hardest matchup right now against like specifically a good Death Guard player running a good Death Guard list. So he has access to -1 to hit due to his contagion, which is just like an aura that all Death Guard units get that like grows big throughout the game. It's usually around like 12 inches. And Nurglings make you subtract 1 from your weapon skill characteristic, I believe. Maybe I have like it reversed, but basically you get -1 to hit, and then you subtract 1 from your weapon skill on top of that. So units like Knobs are now hitting on 5s. Which is brutal. It's like really, really hard to interact with them as a result. And the answer to that is you shoot them outside of contagion range, and Orks don't have it as an option. Like the Nurgling thing is like within 6 inches, I think. And then the contagion range is usually around 12, and that's like always where we want to be. So if they're a good Death Guard player, they're not going to give you access to those Nurglings. They're going to keep them in a way that's like either you're wasting like a big unit's potential by fighting Nurglings, and they're not going to let you like multi-tag and split attacks, or they're just like very bubbled and insulated by like Plague Marines or like something that like Plague Marines and like Nurglings like in the middle of like a big blob. Or like a bunch of Rhinos and then Nurglings and then like whatever you actually want to fight like in front. Something like that. But you'll be at -2 to hit functionally, which I don't know if it'll ever get FAQ'd. Like definitely should. Like -2 is like pretty insane. This was like a big problem in 8th edition that was like a lot of work was like put into like specifically removing it from the game. So if you are unfamiliar, in 8th edition, Elder Flamespan was very big because they could give you like -3 or something to hit. And it like kind of broke the game for a minute. Funny enough, for like all factions outside of Orks too, I think we're insane into that matchup, but that's ancient history now. Anyways, Grant was great. He played the game super well, and Death Guard are a hard matchup. If people want like faction breakdowns for Orks or anything like specific like that, I'm happy to make another video about it. Game 2 into Keaton, other Ork player. Yeah, the Ork mirror is very cursed. I've grown to like it if like you like your opponent. I think it was a bit rough in like early 10th, but at this point, now you're actually like fighting each other. It's like more interesting. Basically, the game comes to like deploy all your grots in a big screen across the board, and then all your Storm Boys, and then do that last and hope your opponent doesn't do the same. And then you're just trying to play keep away by like move blocking and screening. I mean, I was thankful that like neither of us had shooting, because that makes it skewed into shooting players' favor slightly typically, at least presuming that shooting is like flash gets. If it's grot tanks, I care a little less. The grot tanks are still like good, but I care about them less than flash gets, who are, in my view, a bigger problem. And yeah, we just kept like move blocking each other with transports and trying to prevent like juiciest targets from being interacted with. Calling the Wog is also interesting. We did it by like player whose turn it currently is at the start of the battle round, which is him because he went first, has to call the Wog. That's like the best conclusion we could find at the time, but there actually is a rule that specifies what you're supposed to do. Is you're supposed to roll off each turn, and then whoever I think wins the roll off chooses who chooses first. Something like that. I would say it's edge case, but I think this actually like might happen quite a bit. Like it also, if you're playing into like world leaders, they have the same thing with their like blood type points, where they're both like start of battle round, I believe. The order in which that resolves is like pretty important. And then round 3 was into knights. Jason from XPZ, who's a great guy and was like, I think a little like tired at this point, and also like knights into orcs is like a pretty brutal matchup, especially with like a ton of squig hogs. He actually killed a lot more than I was expecting. I don't know if Jason's just really good at knights or the rolls are spiked a bit, but I can't remember now. But like, I mean, I've played this matchup quite a bit. He was able to kill more than like most knights players that I've seen. Like I played Chaos Knights twice at SoCal Open, and it made me realize that I have to like still respect the knights matchup a little bit, even if we can just like auto delete anything we get into contact with. If it's like a good knight player, their shooting is still like enough to like give orcs a hard time, and I felt like thankful I was able to pull it back in like a really devastating turn 2 Wog. But yeah, it felt like if a few things flipped the other way, and if a few charges were failed, it could have been close. Game 4 was into Michael, who I mostly know is Big Mech Ragamuff, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, Big Mech Ragamuff. Yeah, he's a lot of cool kit bashes. His orc list was like, he had like a battle wagon and like, I think like one big squad of 10 knobs, or maybe 2 squads of 10 knobs. And yeah, I mean, like the orc mirror just comes down to like who can like screen out better. I went first this time, which I did not want. In the orcs mirror, you generally want to go second, because you want your opponent to like come up and then like fight all your screens, and then you want to be able to fight them back and have them not have any screams and be in like a bad position that's out of place. We can really only hurt each other most of the time in combat, right? So yeah, you want to be able to like trade up screens effectively. and that's a lot harder to do if you're going first. Hammer and Anvil is also kind of interesting for this game. So here's some examples of that. This is like not how I deployed, but it's like how I moved my army up, which is very slowly. I was trying to make sure I could like maintain primary here. So one good thing about going first is that I got some like good advances, and I was able to push these up so that most of the objectives, just like the way this mission is laid out, it happened to work out that with my advances, I was able to like screen out this objective with the Squigog boys, this one with the Grots, and then up here, like the Stormblaze made a huge line too. So if he wanted to get any primary, he had to like fight through my screens first. Important lesson I learned from SoCal: make sure your models are always more than 4 inches back, so that if they like, say these boys, I mean Mazrog's not a good target for it. Say like these boys charged here, kill all the Squighogs, and there was like a second unit of boys here that had activated and also charged into the Squighogs. That second unit could then pile in and fight here potentially, or like here. I mean, like Mazrog's not a target they would want, but say it's like another squad of boys or something they would want to fight into. If I'm within 4 inches, he can charge, fight, and then pile in into the next unit, and then fight there too. If there's like 2 units that charge the initial target, and the initial target is now dead. This is not something that would have worked in 9th edition, but it's a big thing in 10th, especially for armies like World Leaders. And I mean, Chaos Space Marines have like quite a bit of melee too, with like Chosen. And yeah, that's like a huge thing and a lesson in screening that you have to get used to. Okay, game 5. Isn't Tyler Bortel? Really good player. I was like nervous going in. It felt like a matchup that was like good for me, but I know he's just like such a good player that it's like something I was still like nervous about. He was playing Endless Swarm Tyranids, which I hadn't gone into before. Their core mechanic revolves around like bringing units back, and then also when they get shot, they get to move forward d6 inches. The second one did not apply at all. I just like simply didn't shoot him, so he wouldn't do it. Like my shooting sucks. There's like no real reason to. And then yeah, but the other one, he like always made sure he had 2 CP basically to bring back a unit that died, which is almost always the gargoyles. I think he had like a 20-man gargoyle unit that at some point just like screened across like this whole thing and made my life like very difficult. I think his big mistake was taking cleanse. I think he took like, let me double check. Yeah, I took tactical, having learned from the earlier game. Yeah, he took cleanse and teleport homers. Teleport homers he maxed. That's like super easy for Tyranids. All they need is like 1 spore mine to land in your deployment zone. It can do a teleport homer every turn. But yeah, cleanse against Orks is like a bit more rough. I mean, I really just tried to make sure that he couldn't get to these objectives and like do cleanse as much as I physically could, while also obviously trying to keep his primary down as a result of doing so. This was a supply drop, which is the like Alpha Omega mission where objectives get removed throughout the course of the game, and you only score for objectives in no man's land, which is good for me. It means he gets like a 0 for a few turns. It means I get like a 5 or more for a couple turns. And like the final score was like super close. I think it was like literally a 4-point win, just because he's like a very, very good player. But I think it was like anybody else playing this list, like this is an insanely bad matchup for them. Me going first was huge. If he goes first, it's real bad. The gargoyles just like screen my deployment zone out and I can't really move anywhere. Then he's able to get like a huge primary lead. I mean, I think it's still a game, but like it's like much harder for me. And if I go first, I'm able to just like, this was like a straight line of Squighogs going across. Like this was like basically the same thing too, with like Gaz behind. And I tried to get as much OC onto this point, which I think was like the last one to go away as possible. Mistakes I made, I overcommitted to this flank, and I should have like spread out a bit more here. I think Tyranids, like all flavors of Tyranids, feel like a pretty good matchup for Orks, or at least like the list I'm bringing. I've played into Monster Mash like quite a bit with like the big Norn emissary, all like the big bugs that are like standard that people take, and yeah, I mean we just have so much like anti-monster or just like high strength for +1 to wound or whatever, or volume of attacks that like, yeah, those are like not a problem in my view. But this one with a good player at least like felt a lot more challenging in that like its screening potential is higher, so I'm able to control the board state less, and primary is not guaranteed, which it is in the other matchup typically. And then game 6 was into Mark, who's another fantastic player, and his Tau. This was a weird game. I thought it was going to be over like very quickly one way or the other, and this is, so I went first. He pre-moves his like pre-game moves his crew downs up here, which is like whatever, that's what I expect, right? Like I know he's going to screen me out. Mark's a good player. I saw him set up this wall. He tried to make like as small gaps as possible for me to be able to fit through. This is like what any like good player will do too, who's playing Tau, right? They just like try and stop you from moving up. I looked at the profile of the crisis suits. I know it's like Ion Blasters do, and I was like, okay, they're like strength 8, AP 2, 2 damage or whatever, and he'll kill like an amount of Squighogs, but like with the -1 to wound on average, like a good amount should live, and I'll be able to like clap back. can only fire and fade one squad. Even if they're not dying, when they like outscore in primary, it'll be like fine. What I didn't know is these motherfuckers, the piranhas, can force a battle shock. He had one move up here and another move up here. Let's see if I have a photo. God, is that it? I thought I had more. Holy shit, I'm bad at taking pictures. Man, this sucks. I want to go to another major and take more photos. Shout out to the Tabletop Battles app for having a feature that reminds me to take pictures that I always forget to turn on or forget to take pictures anyways. Everyone's trying their best. It's my fault. But yeah, Piranha 1 moves up here. Squig Hogs are here. Battle Shocks them. That means they can no longer be targeted by Arta's Nails. Piranha 2 moves up here. These Squig Hogs are here. Battle Shocks them. They can no longer be targeted by Arta's Nails. I lost both squads in their entirety turn 1. And I was like, that's game. Like, it's over for sure. I've never lost that many Squig Hogs in a game. And I did not expect, like, Tau to be the matchup where I, like, lose them all. But, I mean, you know, it's, like, the 6th round. I'm determined to win. So I, like, keep trying anyways. And then, like, mostly through... I think if he takes, like... I think it's hard for people to assess their secondary choices into Orks. Like, he has like a very like solid game plan that he just sticks to like every game, I think, which was taking Teleport Homer and Assassination. Assassination he maxed, but it was barely. I like had at the end of the game I just had like characters hiding around in various spots, and he was able to kill the last one to max Assassin, I believe, on turn 5, but that was like a little dicey. Teleport Homers was the one where he really struggled, though. Like, my main goal was just to, like, kill his, like, little scoring units. And I was like, if all it's alive at the end of a game is, like, a couple units of Crisis Suits and, like a broadside, then I'm, like, great. Because he's not scoring as high as he could have. If he takes engage in all fronts, he wins this game by, like, probably, like, 6 points or something. Because, yeah, like, this is where he set up. He had the stealth, or the ghost kill in front. He's got one here, and he had one, like, down here in this corner, too. And then he had the Tetras behind them. For anyone who doesn't know, the Tetras apply marker lights to your models and make them get a bunch of like bonuses. And they're like a really integral part of his army, and they're like super, super good. The Ghost Kill's job is to like not die. They usually have stealth and non-operative, and then to me, they're just like a lot of wounds and like good at move blocking. So we kept them like back here defensively, knowing that like I wouldn't be able to reach at turn 1, and then like for the rest of the game, just kind of like try to zone me out with them. I think, like, yeah, like, Gazgul really saved me this game. He just stood in this little castle, and if anything came close to, like, take either of these objective, he would just, like, wallop them. And I wanted to keep him so he only had hold 1, and I had hold more of a whole game. We were playing Purge the Foe, which is also, like, not a good matchup for me. If this is, like, any, like, hold 1, hold 2, hold 3, like, I win this on primary, like, really easily. But because it was Purge the Foe, he got kill 1 and kill more most turns, so our primary was actually, like, pretty even. I think, yeah, I had a 48 on primary, and he had a 50. So he actually scored higher than me in primary, and it was just due to my secondaries that I was able to win. I took Bring It Down and Teleport Homer. Teleport Homer, I got a 15 and just like did one right here in the middle of the board every turn. And then Bring It Down, he has like so many goddamn vehicles. I was like, okay, might not have worked into Death Guard, but I don't know if I need the CP here. Like, I'm not gonna like fight on death against Tau, right? Like, most of the combat trick stuff I need CP for, like, doesn't really apply here. The only thing I really need is Arta's Nails and like maybe a Kareen, but like that's like not something I'm gonna like bank on or like change the whole game plan for. So Bring It Down was like the right choice. It was like very easy for you to max. I probably scored like 30 something points on Bring It Down. That's like without tabling him. Like, he still had at least one. I think he still had 2 units of Crisis Suits at the end, and that might have been it. But still, like that's like a substantial part of his army, and a source that I thought I was going to get Bring It Down from for sure. So just calculating the amount of Bring It Down he gave up at the start of the game, I was like, this is the right plan. I don't need the CP. And I think that's like a really important part of like doing well in 40K, especially at like an event like this where like everyone's very good in practice. And the only thing you might have over them is like, this specific matchup more, or like you are able to be like flexible and see like a weird opportunity to do something different that varies from your game plan, which you do like 90% of the time, but like maybe they don't. And I feel like that's like something that like took a long time for me to develop going to majors. And I always like kind of had a plan and stuck to it. And yeah, that flexibility like definitely makes a huge difference in like later rounds when you're playing against someone who's like insanely good. Like being able to adapt like that. It's like pretty tough and like not an easy call to make, and it's something you can only really perceive at all if it's like if you've played like a ton of reps and can get like a good feel for like when something you're used to doing is like no longer going to work. And that can be pretty hard to read. Yeah, here's the little trophy. I was shocked. I mean, I didn't even make top 8. I was like, yeah, I was 5-1, but I wasn't even top 8, so I didn't think I'd be in contention. was very surprised. I got the little banner. It's me running, and then it's me with Steve, who's awesome. This is like the sickest event. Shout out to California Cup. Like, this is the best major I've been to in a really long time. There was a barbecue. Everyone was just like hanging out. There was like the least amount of like sweaty or frustrating seeming games of competitive 40K I've like seen like maybe ever. And probably like the best players I've ever seen at a major of this size either. Like all, like so many of the big dogs of 40K were there. I was like horrified going in. I did not think I was going to go 5-1. This was me expecting to go like 4-2 optimistic or like 3-3 more realistically. So yeah, I was like, I definitely had like some very hard matchups, but I think they could have been like much worse. So I was happy with that. And XPZ did a great job running the event. If you feel like traveling to a major, this is like definitely one I would recommend too. If you're in California or like nearby, obviously go. It's awesome. But yeah, like even traveling, like yeah, the barbecue is great. Just good atmosphere, good vibes. There's a lot of Green Day playing the whole time. A lot of like reggae and stuff too. I feel like the playlist like just felt like something that tried to make it seem like you're at like a family barbecue. And it's all I really want to talk about. I want to talk about like the barbecue components of the major more so than 40K. Also, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have like COVID now. But I like do a whole video and can feel my throat and what that feels like when I'm not just like working from home silent the whole day and like have to communicate. So yeah, apologies if I'm a little like scatterbrained this video, but I wanted to get it out, A, before I succumb to disease and die, but B, well, the event's still a little fresh. 40K is very much like just trying to capture the moment, and yeah, I wanted to get this out there because I think it was like I'd like so much fun at this event, and I really wanted to do a video about it. Looking towards the future, I want to try some different stuff out. I think Orks, like the more I play with like different units and like try to reconfigure his list, I think like there's a lot of good lists in Orks, and I think like a lot of them are not being explored. I was impressed by Battle Wagons this weekend, like just being able to play the mirror twice. I want to try those. And one thing that I think might be like an interesting challenge at some point is I saw a comment by someone on like the like Art of War like podcast that I was on, who was really sad that he feels like Beast Naga stuff was like mandatory, and I don't think that's true at all. I think like Beast Naga stuff is popular because A, people like it, B, it's obviously good, but C, just like once something's established in Warhammer, people just tend to copy it because it's easy, and this game is like expensive and it's like hard to get like a ton of fucking models. So if you're gonna buy them, you generally want to buy the ones that you like know are good and don't want to like try something and see like let's see if it's good competitively and then regret it later. But as someone who owns like I think almost 3 of every unit in the Ork range, pretty close to it. Like I don't have max Burna Boys. There's like a couple I don't have the maximum amount of, but yeah, I want to try like all old school Orks, like just knobs, war bosses, and like tons of boys, and see if I can make like a list that feels good out of it. Because I think it's like very possible to just be like an old school Ork player still, if that's what you're into. Yeah, and I got to do that Nova video, but like never happened. I don't know. I took a Stompa and a Gargantuan Squig off to Nova, and if anyone's interested, I'd still like to make that into a video, but I don't know, I was too precious about it, which is partially why I really wanted to get this out there, despite the COVID brain. So I hope you like this video. Thank you for coming by. I want to keep doing these tactic videos, and I might do a painting video if I just like go insane with COVID and make something like real scrappy and fast. I mean, I got this combat patrol. I feel like I owe people who care about painting videos a painting video. Maybe this is a good opportunity for that. Anyways, do all the YouTube algorithm stuff if you feel so inclined, like likes and comments or whatever, but I'm not gonna beg you for that. And if you don't want to, it's a very reasonable stance to have. So yeah, thanks for coming by. See you at the next one. Goodbye.